Hello and welcome as we continue with our string functions. In the previous video, I showed you how to concatenate or how to combine these fields using the ampersand sign and also putting spaces in between. So now I want to show you two more functions that involve strings. So what we need to do is to insert new columns here on gender. So what you do is you bring your cursor right in the E label on top. So you must see that arrow pointing down. Don't do it inside here, but where the arrow is pointing down, then you highlight these two columns. Then anywhere inside the highlight, you right click and then you say insert. Right, so we start by coming up here, we highlight these two and then you right click and then insert. So once these are highlighted, you can see that these are quite wide, so I can simply put my cursor there and drag like that, and then the two of them, they are resized. So that's one thing that you need to know, that if you highlight the whole column at the top like that, and then you drag one of these, all the columns which are dragged will become exactly the size that you made the one. So if you want a number of columns with exactly the same size, you simply highlight them on top here. Don't come inside here, because if you come inside, you are simply highlighting a few cells. You need to highlight the whole column on top, then you can resize it. So what we want to put here in E is the initial. So in other words, we want to be able to extract the initial of this person, just in case at times we want to simply say Mr. T Ngwerume. We don't want to say the full name, so we want to get the initial, and then we also want to get the size or the length of the surname. So I want to get the length of the surname or the size. So we are going to use two string functions, one that gets the initial and another one that gets the length. So there are two functions called left and right. So you can see that on a string, let's take for example this name, Tendayi. If I start from the left, first character is T, first two characters is TE, first three is TEN. If I start from the right, first is I, first two is IY, first three IYA. So you can either say I want the characters to the left of this string or characters to the right of this string. So it is a formula, so you simply say equal to, then you type in left, and then you open a bracket, and then you click on the string that you want, and then you put a comma and the number of characters that you want from there. So if I say 3 and then close the bracket and press enter, it gives me the first 3 characters. So if I were to copy this formula here, it will give me the first 3 characters of every name. But if I change this formula to equal to right, then bracket, then I click on the name and then a comma, then I tell it 3. It will give me the last 3. Right, so it's left or right. So meaning that for an initial, we only want the first 1 character. So it's going to be equal to left, then you open bracket, then the cell where that string is, then comma, then you say how many characters you want on the left, and you close it and you press enter. Then we can now copy this new formula down. So now we have the initial. So if we then do another concatenate, instead of starting with the first name, we put the initial, so it will now be Mr. T. Ngwerume. So that is a left and a right function. So there are many applications for this left and right function. One I can quickly think of is, for example, if you have got an ID number which says 1980, then 10 12 001. If we want to know the year in which the person was born from this ID, we know that it's the first 4 characters on the left of this ID. So we simply say equal to left, then open bracket, then the string, and then comma, then 4, and then close, and press enter. Then it gives us the year from here. So at a later stage we can be a bit advanced, then we can actually be able to extract even the date, actual day and the month that the person was born, even from an ID. That is how you create a validation to make sure that an ID number which has been typed is actually valid. So if we did a left 4 on the ID number, and instead of a year like 1980, it gave us something like 1080, then we would know that this is a wrong ID number, because the ID must start with a year, and for us now there's nobody who was born in 1080, right? So that is part of what we call validation, checking whether data that we've entered is actually valid, right? So this was a digression just to give you another application of this left string function. So the last function I'm going to show you is, if you want to find out how long a string is, we use the length function, but it's abbreviated to len. So you type in equal to len, then open bracket, and then you click on the field that you want to check the length, and you close. So you can see that if you know the field is C2, you don't have to click here. You can simply type in equal to len, open bracket, you type C2, and you close. Then you press enter. You can see that it tells you that this is 8 characters long. So if I copy this formula down like that, it will show you the length of each surname, right? So this is the length function, or len. So it's again equal to len, the length of the field that you want, and you close. So you can see that all the functions consist of the function name, either left or len. Then you have to have these these brackets, and then inside the brackets you need to put either 1 or 2 parameters. So because we are just looking for the length of one field, we simply put the address for that field. But on the initial, we were saying left of, then we need to supply the field plus how many characters we want. So it depends on the function. Some of them they use 1 parameter, others they use 2, depending on what you want to do. Right. So those are the string functions that I'll show you for now, but as time goes on, when we meet other fields, I'm going to be unveiling more functions as we go. So in the next session, I'm going to be showing you the date functions. So we are not yet on the gender. On the gender, we are going to come there when we look at the if functions. right? The if functions, that's the one that's going to give us the gender. But in the next session, we look at the date functions.